where a boy discovers a magic lamp and a genie who can make all his dreams come true.
10,000 years will give you such a crick in the neck.
Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our channel, Paws On Animation.
And today we're covering the original Disney's Aladdin film from 1992.
This original film,
Only original,
still holds up as it delivers the fun, magic, action, and of course, Robin Williams' immortal role as Genie.
Yes.
But
before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and keep with some future podcasts and Wanna Pause videos.
yes, and thank you so much for joining us for this podcast today. Subscribing, sharing our videos, and so much more. As always, we appreciate everything you do.
Yes.
So this movie originally released in November with a 90-minute runtime. It had a budget of $28 million and earned over $504 million at the box office.
Oh my god.
And that's why I wanted to lead with that, because that is like almost 20 times the amount it took to make the movie.
Right? Oh my gosh.
And you wonder why Disney has taken itself away from making movies like this.
Just, all together.
Yes, and it doesn't even matter that there's controversies attached to it. $504 million doesn't lie. People love the movie.
Yeah.
Worldwide.
Right. And it's still being talked about to this day. So it is genuinely a popular movie. So big it's part of pop culture. So big that most people like to reference this movie when they want to do an Aladdin story, even though it's public domain.
Yes.
This has become almost a quintessential version of the story.
And so good we watch it again for this particular podcast.
Yes.
So, it's considered a musical fantasy comedy. It was produced by Walt Disney Feature Animation and released by Buena Vista Pictures and Walt Disney, which might help to explain why it got such a wide distribution around the world.
Right.
And it's based on the Arabic folktale Aladdin from 1001 Nights. And 1001 Nights is a collection of Middle Eastern folktales compiled in the Arabic language during the Islamic Golden Age, and is often referred to in English as the Arabian Nights from the first English language edition. And that actually came out between 1706 and 1721.
Wow. So yeah, it is most definitely a public domain story. But again, it's so weird. Well, not weird. It shows how great the writing is for the movie. To this day, people can still recall the movie if they haven't rewatched it in a while or when they were kids. It's so memorable. You can remember scenes and lines and moments or songs without having to really think about it. And this has become probably the greatest role Robin Williams has ever done, whether it be live action or animated. This is one of the most iconic voice performances of all time.
And some people would debate that. I can say it's his most memorable. The one people think of immediately when you talk about him doing BA roles. It's the first one that comes to mind.
Yes.
It's the one he's most associated with. In case some think maybe it's not his most iconic.
Right.
It's the one he's most known for, most famous for.
Right. And with this, we do know there were also some sequels later. But this one was actually, if you think about it, a really different story for Disney at the time. It was still a folklore, fairy tale type story, but it wasn't an American or European or any Western type story. It was something totally different, but they still managed to put their Disney spin on it when they were really great at taking these stories that probably weren't that well known or have been told before many times and gave them their own little magic, and then the story became their own. And Aladdin was no exception to that.
The original story is called Aladdin and the Magic Lamp. This screenplay version was written by Ron Clements, John Musker, Ted Elliott, and Terry Rossio. And in this version, Aladdin is a street urchin who finds a magic lamp containing the genie, and with the genie's help, he's disguised as a wealthy prince who tries to impress the father of the Sultan of Agrabah, the father of Princess Jasmine, who he really wants to be with, who's free-spirited even in the 1700s, as the Sultan's evil vizier, Jafar, plus is still the magic lamp.
Right.
Pretty simple plot, but is so wonderfully told, the story.
Yeah, and we have heard people say is that, well, we don't like simple movies because you're used to complex storylines. No, I think that's the beauty of simplicity that Disney used to have. Now when they do simple, they mean bare bones. That means don't try. Just do something quick and get it out. When you see these movies like Aladdin and their fairy tale films, there was a simple story, but there was a lot of detail into the characters, into the music, into the design, into the atmosphere, into the voice acting, into the color scheme, into the foreshadowing, every little detail. It was what is it, deceivingly simple. It was simple to start and finish to get to the point A to point B, but everything that happened within the movie has so much to it that you could just keep going back and keep finding things you missed, whether it be references, foreshadowing, callbacks to another story or other Disney films or whatever. There's always something more to this film, and it also included its ever famous message having to do with the wishes.
True. And it has some great songs, which we're not going to have in here so that claims aren't placed on this podcast.
Right.
But
Right.
you know the songs, and we can mention the songs.
Right.
But we will not play the songs at all.
Right.
So what was really fantastic about this movie is it became the first animated feature to reach the $500 million mark, and was actually the highest grossing animated film of all time, till it was surpassed by The Lion King.
Live action. Wow.
No, The Lion King in 94.
Oh, the original. Okay,
Yes.
okay. Never mind then.
Yes.
Just 2 years later. Good grief.
Yes. And let's see, The Lion King itself, that actually earned $978 million.
Wow. So okay,
With a
yeah, I
budget
can
of
see it.
$45 million. Again, if Disney would listen and give us the type of movies we want like this, and the
Yeah.
original Lion King, and Tangled and others, they could be making these type of
Yeah, easy.
numbers easily, and probably far surpassing them, because there's more people in the world now with more income and more ways to watch it, including digital and streaming
Right.
and so forth.
Right. And as you're watching this movie, you kind of can't help but see how it ended up influencing later Disney films.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have Aladdin's story going pretty much from rags to riches, which is a story that's been done before. But the way his story is told makes it more unique. Yes, he's dubbed as the street rat, but he's not a criminal.
No.
He's just literally just living his life, and he's being a little mischievous about it, just trying to eat, just trying to make it, and that's it. It's not something really heavy and deep like these interpretations have done later on in books, where they want to heavily focus on the poverty aspect and the negative parts.
Right.
What people kind of miss for it now, because they're only focused on that issue, is that, you know, he didn't like the life he was living, but he always wished for more. And it's something that's been in a majority of the Disney films up until recently, and it connects with all of them. As people said, he wished for more, whether it be on the star or just in a blank night sky, whichever, or the genie. He kept looking for more. He kept wanting more than just this life he had, where he wasn't always just trying to survive and just get what he needed.
True.
And it starts off the story of him getting the lamp for Jafar, and the whole thing just pretty much going from there. By the end of the story, he does get his wish. It just goes in a really topsy-turvy way for him to get there.
Another thing that I liked about the movie is how the genie ended up teaching him a better way to live,
Right.
and a better person to be.
Right.
And then the genie in turn was able to be released from his prison in the lamp.
Right.
And they actually helped each other
Yes.
and became friends. And I love that part.
Yes.
Because it wasn't him just using the genie to get what he wanted, and it wasn't the genie trying to use him. He really liked him as a person, his personality.
Right.
And he cared what happened to him. And I love that dynamic between those two characters.
Right. And we had been recently seen for the things for Wish, and when people working on it claimed, well, we didn't want the shape-shifting star because it's too similar to Genie. We don't want Asha to feel like, oh, she can't do anything or not. But the thing is, you have Genie, and everything you just described his and Aladdin's relationship could have been done with this new version. You don't understand what was the thought process, but I don't see what was wrong with having a Genie-like character, because Disney has had Maui and Sisu and other characters that are shapeshifters for decades in their movies. Suddenly, the star shape-shifting was like, oh no, we've done that before, suddenly it's a bad idea. But Genie has become one of the biggest characters of Disney. You have Mickey and Donald and Goofy, of course, and you have the fairy tale characters. But Genie is one of those characters that is everlasting. All the way up to now, 102 years later, Genie is still one of their biggest characters. Why wouldn't you want to take advantage and use one of your biggest mascots of magic of your company?
Yeah, who knows? And that's their problem.
Well.
So, let's talk about, again, how the world loves this movie.
Yes.
It earned 2 Academy Awards, as well as other accolades for a soundtrack, which had the first number from a Disney feature to earn a Grammy Award for Song of the Year, A Whole New World,
A Whole New
sung by
World.
Peabo Bryson and Regina Bell. And the actual VHS release also set a sales record at the time, earning approximately $500 million in the U.S. alone.
Oh my God.
And as you mentioned, the success led to various derived works and other material inspired by the film, including 2 direct-to-video sequels, The Return of Jafar and Aladdin and the King of Thieves, an animated TV series, and a Broadway adaptation.
Right.
And a live-action film that was directed by Guy Ritchie,
Yeah.
which was released in May of 2019, which we covered. And not only that, we liked it.
That's
And I
the
think
only
they
one we like.
And I think they successfully translated Genie in terms of the script and the writing and Will Smith's performance, and more people were concerned about him being blue. Well, he was blue in the animated version. So what, he was blue in live action.
Right, it's like, do you not want the colors now? What the heck?
But personally, we think it was good.
Right.
So, this is just, as you mentioned, one of those stories that is enduring, everlasting, and memorable. And within the framework of the movie, there are lessons being taught.
Right.
And I think that's one of the reasons this particular original story from the 1700s has remained relevant.
Right.
Because it has messages and morals and values that are being taught within the framework of its unfolding that will never change.
Right.
And that will never not be relevant.
Right.
And that do help to make people better people and a society a better society.
Right.
Regardless of how that society might be,
Right.
the lessons within Aladdin will never not be relevant.
Right. Exactly.
So let's go over the voice cast quickly.
Mm-hmm.
We have Scott Weinger as Aladdin.
Yeah, surprisingly.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the same Scott Weinger that played, same Scott Weinger was in Full House.
Oh my gosh, that's the voice
Yes.
all this time.
Yes. And Brad King was the one who provided Aladdin's singing voice, not Scott.
Oh, okay.
We have Robin Williams as Genie, as you mentioned.
Yes.
And as we said, this is one of his most famous roles, and the one that people usually identify him with as far as being a voice actor.
Right.
And he also voiced a peddler who appears at the beginning of the film.
Yes.
And it says the directors intended to be the same Genie in disguise narrating the
Yes,
story.
that was a big theory too.
The singing voice for that character was Bruce Adler, not Robin Williams.
Ah, okay.
We had Linda Larkin as Jasmine, the beautiful princess of Agrabah.
Mm-hmm.
Her singing voice was provided by Leah Salonga.
Okay. So they had 2 different ways for speaking and singing.
And she was chosen for the role of Jasmine 9 months after her audition, and she had to adjust her high-pitched voice to reach the voice the filmmakers were looking for in the character.
Okay.
FYI. Jonathan Freeman as Jafar, the
Yes.
power-hungry Grand Vizier.
Hear that?
of
Power
Agrabah.
hungry.
Yes, people. Definitely a villain, not a victim.
Nope.
And
He just wanted power.
he spent actually 21 months recording his dialogue. And he had to readjust his voice after Wanger and Larkin were cast because he felt that Jafar had to be seen as a real threat to Aladdin and Jasmine.
Really? Okay.
Yes. We had Frank Welker as Abu,
Yeah.
the
Yep.
kleptomaniac pet monkey.
Kleptomaniac. Okay.
He also voiced Jasmine's tiger Raja and the Cave of Wonder.
Oh, so he was like D. Bradley Baker for this movie. Okay.
Yes. We had Guilford Gottfried
Of
as
course.
Lago.
Yago.
Yago,
Yeah.
thank you. Jafar's hot-tempered parrot sidekick.
Yes.
Douglas Seal as the Sultan. Jim Cummings as Razul, the captain of the guards.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlie Adler as Gazim, the thief who Jafar sends into the Cave of Wonders at the beginning of the film.
Right.
But he's trapped inside for being unworthy.
Oh,
and
yeah.
finally, Corey Burton as Prince Ahmed. The one that Jasmine said no to.
Oh, man. Yeah, that was actually funny.
So this movie, of course, is well received. The money doesn't lie worldwide. The money being made not only in theaters but also in VHS and DVD sales, and lastly being streamed and so
Right.
forth. There were a lot of controversies attached to it because of the characters' looks and designs and how they felt they were being presented. But we're not going to go into
A
that.
little bit.
We're not going to go into that.
Nope,
That is
that's,
too
very-
long a discussion.
Yep, and it could be a little touchy subject for some.
Yes,
too.
and also I don't think it's something we personally can talk about. This movie came out quite a while ago. And before you were born, many
Right.
others were born. And a lot of this controversy has developed over the years. You would think after all this time it would have disappeared, but it looks like they're not letting the controversy go.
Okay.
The only one I want to mention is that animation enthusiasts said there were similarities between Aladdin and Richard Williams' unfinished film, The Thief and the Cobbler,
And that's been a well-known movie too. Now.
also known as The Princess and Cobbler under Allied filmmakers. The Thief and the Cobbler actually was devised originally in the 1960s
Oh.
and was eventually released in 1993.
Wow. Okay.
So they were saying there were numerous similarities between it, but it looks like the Disney film is the one who borrowed from The Thief and the Cobbler because it began its work in 1960.
Oh. Okay.
So-
That's an interesting fact. to learn.
Yes. And the late release, coupled with Miramax purchasing and re-editing the film, has sometimes resulted in The Thief and the Cobbler being labeled as a ripoff of Aladdin, but it's not true. So if you weren't familiar with that, now you know
Right.
that actually this Disney movie borrowed from that project.
Okay.
And it's often credited as the catalyst in the rise of casting film stars as voice actors in Hollywood animated films. With
Wow.
Robin Williams' successful performance.
Cool.
So,
If you haven't already, subscribe for updates of Lucas' favorite anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
and if you've seen Aladdin, we know you have, let us know in the comments who are your favorite characters. What are your favorite versions? Do you like the live action at all? Or are you
Right.
just sticking with the animated? Do you like the spin-offs?
Or do you like everything from Aladdin in this franchise?
Right. Let us know what you think. If you haven't seen it, oh, you're way behind. Go
Right.
watch Aladdin. Come back and tell us what you think.
Yes.
And thank you so much for subscribing, sharing our videos, commenting, and so much more. As always, you are our specials, and you have magic of your own as well.
Yes. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Mask Entertainment.
And our Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.